welcome to another episode of 5 at 5. I'm Minette Tonoli and we'll be looking at a couple of flowers in my garden today. First off, I'd like to talk about Feverfew, and this guy has just come into bloom in the last few days and is just looking fantastic in the garden. Makes a beautiful white daisy flower with the yellow centers. Quite strongly scented. Some people don't like the scent at all. I don't mind. Gorgeous little flowers. This is also known as the migraine herb because it's very effective for headaches. It's mostly the leaves that are used medicinally made into a tea, but a lot of times people will just use the whole flowering top and dry that and make it into a tea. It's a lovely companion plant to the garden, attracting bees, hoverflies, and really gives a lovely soft appearance to the garden with its white daisy flowers. Definitely one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites, possibly my ultimate favorite herb, is the chamomile. And these guys in front of me are little German chamomiles. These are the ones that are preferred for teas, as they are said to be higher in all the good constituents that make up the medicinal qualities of chamomile. But I also grow Roman chamomile and the carpet chamomile, or Trenegue. Chamomiles are actually quite easy to grow from seed, and if you let one or two of your bushes self-seed, you'll happily find chamomile coming up the next year. The German chamomile, which is the annual one, works very easily like that. As a matter of fact, all the chamomile I have in my garden this year are simply volunteer plants from a large bush that I had let go to seed last year. And I grow them in my bee and butterfly garden to attract hoverflies and bees and all sorts of beneficial insects. And of course I harvest them to make a delicious calming and soothing herbal tea. Chamomile makes a very good companion plant in the garden. It's known as the plant's physician and can be planted around any ailing plant or something that is just having trouble growing at its optimal. And chamomile is said to be a very good doctor for all those sickly little plants, helping them to thrive and become the best that they can be. I often plant chamomile with my tomatoes and all throughout my vegetable garden. Now these guys are actually perennial chamomile or Roman chamomile, and they are often sold as lawn chamomile, even though they still grow tall to make a flower in the summer season. These guys are about ready to make their flowers. They can be mown down and they make a beautiful chamomile carpet. And I'm just getting it sorted throughout my little stepping stones in my vegetable garden. Now another chamomile, and this is what I would call true or proper lawn chamomile, is the variety called Trenegue. And it's actually very low growing and almost mossy. And this never flowers. So there's a stepping stone, and you can see with my hand there in comparison, very low growing, exudes the most delicious chamomile scent, but this never grows higher than what it is, forming a proper carpet or a proper mat. So the next flower I would like to talk to you about today is the pot marigold or calendula. So although Calendula is known as spot marigold, it shouldn't be confused with members of the Tagetes family, which we'll look at next, which is your proper marigolds and often used as a companion in the garden. Although Calendula also makes a beautiful companion plant, especially for attracting bees, to make a trap crop for little stink bugs, to attract hoverflies, other beneficial insects. Its main use for me in the garden is as an edible flower and as a medicinal herb. Fantastic in anything to do with the skin, salves, balms, lip glosses, Even internally as a tea, it's said to help with internal digestive problems, cleaning the digestive tract, helping with duodenal ulcers and all sorts of intestinal problems. It is antiviral and antibacterial, immune stimulant, cleansing, and very much healing, as I said, for specifically for skin ailments. I always start any herbal balm or salve that I make that is going to be applied topically. I start with a base of calendula infused oil. Calendula is quite easy to grow in almost any soil, and it grows almost year round unless you have really cold temperatures. The name Calendae actually refers to the fact that it's in bloom all of the calendar months. I see the slugs at least left me a few flowers to speak about today. These are marigolds. So different to calendula, even though calendula is known as pot marigold, these guys are proper marigolds. It's all sorts of different colors these days. Yellows, oranges, strawberry blonde ones. And these are often used interplanted with vegetables to deter root nematodes and all sorts of other bugs because of their strong scent. So they are really a good companion plant, especially for things like peppers and tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant. It's just said that you shouldn't actually grow them with beans and cabbages. Now the marigolds we commonly have growing in our vegetable gardens are either French marigolds or Tagetes patula, or African marigolds, Tagetes erecta. The one is a little bit taller than the other one. And it's actually said that the African marigold, Tagetes erecta, doesn't have the same properties for sort of taking away root nematodes. And it's also important to know that that little remedy works best if you have had the marigolds growing in your soil for a while and you can actually dig them into the soil for root nematodes and all sorts of soil baddies. Marigolds are annual, and these were the seeds that I was just playing with. You can just sprinkle them and they should grow again in the garden, or you can start them in trays. As I said earlier, the slugs seem to absolutely love marigolds, and they are often the first thing to go in the garden. So if you've got a few going, well done to you. So Tagetes patula, the French marigold, and Tagetes erecta, the African marigold, aren't the only ones out there. There's actually quite a number of Tagetes. This one specifically is Tagetes lemoni, and it's got a citrusy but almost more passion fruit scent to the leaves. Absolutely delicious when you walk and brush past it. It smells first of marigold, typical marigold scent, and then it's got a fruity after scent. And these guys get massive. It's still a young plant, but I've seen them really tall, much taller than me, and very attractive to butterflies and bees and all sorts of other beneficial insects. It's quite a pretty little yellow flower. Another little marigold, and one that I particularly like in the garden, is the Signet marigold or Starfire marigold. And they are really tiny little ones. There's my finger. There's the marigold flowers. Really small things. And same beneficial properties, growing them with your veggies. So I've got mine under my tomatoes. And they come in an array of colors. That's a pretty orange one. I'm sure around the corner here I've got a little yellow flecked one. And they look very pretty if you grow them all together in all the different colors. And they make a beautiful bushy mound. Little Starfire or Signet marigolds. And the flowers are edible. The last little bit of marigold I have, or different marigold I have, is hiding under my big cardoon leaves, and that is known as Mexican mint or Mexican tarragon, and it's because it's got a very strong tarragon or anise kind of flavor. This is my plant coming up from last year's self-sowings, so it's still very, very small, but a very strong tarragon anise scent to it, or at least a tarragon substitute if you have nothing else. Now just in front of my chamomiles is a edible chrysanthemum, and this guy did not play along, and it's not quite open yet this week, but it's not the flower that's the important part. The edible chrysanthemum, although it makes a beautiful chrysanthemum-like daisy flower, white with a yellow ring around it, it's actually the leaf that is edible, and it's often used in Asian cooking. It's got a beautiful taste, and it's known as chop suey greens or shingiku or shungiki, not sure how to pronounce that. Edible chrysanthemum. Thank you for watching 5 at 5 with me, Minette Tonoli. Please remember to follow the link to the article on MeadowSweet's website to find out more about how to grow and use all of these beautiful flowers. See you next week.